I just want to make a disclaimer that I haven't felt that just because somebody called themselves Pappa Rodger and wrote those posts, that doesn't make me necessarily convinced that that person is the perpetrator. But it could be that that person knew some information. It could be that they were just making deductions. It could be that they were working within the case and couldn't resist sharing information and did it in that way so that they could release what they knew without getting in trouble for it, basically. But equally, it could just be somebody using some critical thinking. I don't know. I don't know. But I do find it really interesting that when I saw this picture, I was like, oh my God, that's really weird. And could be absolutely just, just a bizarre coincidence. Somebody's chosen to use that picture. It's not necessarily this guy that chose to use the picture, but it is it is interesting. Very interesting, but I don't know. So anyway, have a listen to the rest of this. And some of this was made quite a while ago. In fact, I think most of it was. But I just, like many videos that I have, I hadn't put it together and hadn't decided whether I was going to upload it. So have a listen anyway. So if you remember from this episode of Truth and Transparency, it was actually Matthew Moy, who is the brother of sorority sister Madison Moy, who is, I've read an interview with her in it, with her quoted in it. I did not, and it doesn't allude in that interview to her, Matthew Moy being her brother, right? And you can't, and apparently there's supposed to be a Yahoo interview that he did, but I can't find it now. I'll have another look in a bit, but I'm putting in keywords and it's not coming up. So he's apparently friends with Dylan as well, and so interestingly, he's in the United States Air Force, and it would appear that it is the case, because I did a bit of a Google after this, that you can be in the military and study at the same time, which I found interesting. For example, if you're doing so you could be doing an online course. They've told us that with regard to Brian Koberger, there was sort of speculation, had he been in the military? And all the response to that was, we don't have him on any lists. doesn't seem to be on any lists. But, well, we know only too well that they could easily get rid of his name. Having said that, you would think somebody would know him and would pipe up. But it did make me wonder because of the fact that Brian Koberger's DeSalle's university course was actually an online course. And interestingly, I'm going to have to find this person now. There's a whole article with a guy who claims to have been at DeSalle's. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I just don't seem to be able to pronounce things right when I'm recording. A guy who went to that university claims to have been in classes with him and had done group projects with him, but he did it online, and it made me wonder, well, maybe he did some of it. This guy wasn't even recently at the university. I looked him up. It was ages ago that he was at DeSalle's. So I've been looking people up, and I'm going to collate it all together, because things are not ringing true with these people who are quoted as saying things, and then I'll find out that things don't seem to add up with them. So this has been, it just appears to have been a massive, huge smear campaign. But why would you do that? If you're confident in your in the evidence that you have, why would that be necessary? And I do believe, and oh my God, it's really hard to tie everything together, that the press have been working hand in hand, and hopefully I will be able to tie that in, but you'll see why. Is that for me? Somebody's delivering. I thought I heard a knock. I can't tell if it's my door or somebody else's. Look, let's get back to Matthew Moy, and I'll try and fill that bit in, because I've just got bits of information all over the place, and they kind of need to be tied in with each other, and it's kind of like a massive jigsaw puzzle, like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so yeah, he's been in the United States Air Force for 4 years and 4 months. Since September 23, he became a contracting officer. But prior to that, he was a cadet, Air Force ROTC cadet. So I suppose we do know that there's a cadets course, but it says full-time United States Air Force. Like, he's actually considered to be in the Air Force for 4 years, according to his LinkedIn. So he was studying business and economics 2019 to 2023, and that's during the time that he's in the Air Force. He's on the wrestling team, volleyball team, track and field team, and cross country, and drummer for a jazz band between 2015 2019. GEMS Education. Don't know if that means anything to anybody. I was intrigued to see Lockheed Martin in his interests, because if you ever watched Bowling for Columbine, I might see if I can get a little clip actually. Yeah, they make weapons. They do other things as well, but they were. I'll find you the clip. It'll probably be. I might do a crap job of explaining it. Look, United States Department of Defense. So there's so many military links with this, more than you realise as well, which I will hopefully, they always leave a little cryptic, but yeah, more than you realise. So I thought that was interesting that he's in the Air Force and that he was the one that complained that he was apparently self-admittedly, is that a thing? Self-admittedly was the neighbour that complained, despite apparently being good friends with Dylan. So, interesting. Yeah, let me read this first. Then you'll realise what I'm on about. So this is somebody called Ken Nelson, and Matthew Moy clearly knows his son, Jared Nelson. So congratulations to my son, Jared Nelson, for being selected to be a pilot in the Air Force. This has been his lifelong dream, and he's worked very hard to achieve this in a few short months. He'll graduate from the University of Idaho, be commissioned as a second lieutenant, and will be off to flight school. Made this old Marine proud. Now, what I find interesting about this whole case, should we see what Matthew Moy said? Well-deserved congratulations. So this is a New York Times article, this Inside the Hunt for the Idaho Killer, right? And it says who they looked at, who they considered. Now, they find a Marine's K-bar knife, a Marine issue K-bar knife. Would you think they might at some point consider the possibility that this person might be in the military? I'm going to be really embarrassed if it does say this here, and I've forgotten it, but I've got a feeling it doesn't. So here we go. Through the first 2 weeks of December, investigators put some of their focus on. Hold on. I'll back up. Publicly, the authorities were assuring worried residents in the small college town that they were making progress. Privately, they were exhausting their prospects, scouring through the backgrounds of those with the thinnest possible connections to the case. This is interesting because they start talking about the first 2 weeks in December, as if they were looking for somebody then. They'd got him. They knew who he was. You can tell when you look back at the press conferences and things that are said, it's just so clear. And Lana's pinpointed some things, so has Streak, Get a Clue. So anyway, and there's something else as well, which I see so many things as I go along, but there's other things that very much point to the fact that they were onto a specific person quite early on. In fact, here we go. Fox 13, this is January the 5th. Shocking court documents reveal police began suspecting Koberger less than 2 weeks after Idaho murders. And within that article, according to court documents unsealed on January the 5th, authorities had a suspect description quite early in the investigation, and Koberger matched it on November the 29th. So how did he match it on November the 29th? What happened there? More than a month before the nation knew his identity. So did they act? What was the thing that matched it? Is it this genetic genealogy? Had they done it all the way back then? Or, I mean, they couldn't have done, I don't think. Or was there some footage? What is it? Because I think it's something that they, for some reason, can't admit to. Or appear to be able to admit to. And is that because it's something that's not... Because one thing that has been used and has not been used in parallel investigations, and they do that because it hasn't been verified enough, and because the mistakes have been made with this type of equipment. Facial recognition equipment has been used and not admitted in court, basically. The FBI have basically done what they've done this time, and claimed that it was a different form, a different tool that they used to identify the suspect. And basically, this is really common, and I'm going to put in the comments the article on facial recognition that I looked at. This is actually something that happens a lot, but in court, suspects have no idea how they were identified, and so therefore can't challenge it. And it's happened time and time again. So I don't know. It is important that we know how he was identified, because you can't test the veracity of it if you don't know. That they're using new technology that hasn't been tried and tested enough. And this could be the case here. It might not be the IgG. That could just be a smokescreen. So through the first 2 weeks of December, investigators put some of their focus on classmates of the victims. They also widened the search to examine a man in another state who had been known to send harassing messages to women, but had visited Idaho only twice in his life. So he says. They looked at a woman previously charged with assaults in the region. They looked at a man once accused of wielding a knife. They looked at sex offenders. They looked at a white supremacist. Each turned out to be a dead end. Then, after spending weeks sifting through an array of evidence, they find Koberger. It doesn't mention... I thought they mentioned hunters in there. It doesn't seem... I could have sworn they did. But I can't... Can you believe it doesn't say anything about military, even though there was a military event on that weekend? And I've just been looking at... I can highly recommend this... bear with. You know I can't multitask. Although I do try constantly. Not that one. It's that one. The Hard Truth. Really good YouTube channel. But so I noticed somebody's comment. This has nothing to do with military, but it was just something that I didn't know happened that weekend, and I don't really know what it means, to be honest. And I was looking it up, but I got a bit sidetracked. But so they were talking in the episode. She was talking about the fact that the Coburgers, the phone pings, right? And this person, what did it say? Auntie D Tech Road Scholar said it was homecoming weekend. So I didn't know what homecoming weekend was, but there's a football game on homecoming weekend, I believe, and I'm not. So it's like is a home game? Is it something to do with that? I don't really know much at all about what homecoming means, apart from that cheer up sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean to homecoming queen? Yep. It was homecoming weekend. It is a rural area, I think I should say. In those rural areas, when you have a highly populated amount of people who come to that area, so I'm just interested in the fact that there are even more people if it's homecoming weekend, if that's correct. You have a highly populated amount of people who come to that area, or rather converge on the area, then it will overload many of the cell phone towers out there. There are a lot of devices competing for access to those cell towers. Every cell tower has a finite amount of capacity that could be on it. I was recently at my homecoming in a rural area in Texas. The entire time I was in or around the campus, my cell phone was unable to access cellular services. This was the weekend of homecoming for Idaho University. It was a weekend of homecoming for Idaho University. I believe this played a role. So I thought that was interesting. And I'm just going to tag this on the end, because this is supposedly the private driver who is an outreach coordinator at Bridge, Idaho, Upward Bound. And this is a program at the University of Idaho. If you Google it, you'll be on the U of I website. And I just wanted to show you something, a couple of things on his Facebook page, but I'm not going to show you all of it. So he started this in 2015, and it's now called Trio Inspire, and he's actually the program director now, and it's run within the College of it's the same department that Ethan was in. So the students were Ethan. This is on the 14th. This is the report, which is still on the University of Idaho website from the very next day. And it says all the courses that they were doing. And interestingly, Kaylee's still registered on a course. So I don't think she was actually leaving early. I think she just had plans for when she did graduate. Maybe she was moving out of the house, though, for some reason. And maybe the Gonsalveses couldn't be open about the reason for that. So I don't know. I don't really know what's going on there. But there's kind of mixed answers about the whole thing with Kaylee. But I won't go into that now. Just look at her obituary and you'll see. The students were Ethan Chapin and a freshman from Mount Vernon, Washington, which is Conway's part of Mount Vernon. It's and a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity, majoring in recreation, sport and tourism management in the College of Education Health and Human Sciences. Well, this course is also in the College of Education, Health and Human Sciences, but it is now called Trio Inspire. But you can see Bridge, Idaho, Upward Bound. Actually, I'm not sure if that's part of the course, but I might look at that. I've just started having a bit of a look at that and could be quite interesting. So I'll come back to that another time. But interestingly, he was kind of a logger. I think he did this as something very manual work as part of his job before he went on to this running this course, and I think maybe in the holidays he did it. So it's not just I think it's logging. Without having another look at his profile right now, I can't be. But this is not just something he's just doing that day. It's something that he used to do. So he knows about tools, let's say. Obviously, this is all hypothetical, and there's plenty of people in Idaho who do know how to use different tools and are hunters, etc. So it doesn't mean anything in the big scheme of things, apart from the fact that he was one of the last people to see them, which I feel is sort of been swept under the carpet a bit, maybe for good reason. But and also there's an article which completely it's clearly not him who's being interviewed. It's clearly a taxi driver that's interviewed, because of how it's written, like, this happens regularly. So it said about not pulling into the driveway because that's a way that you could get robbed. But if this is private driver, then that doesn't sound like a private driver, does it? That sounds like an Uber driver. So I don't know if it's just a fake interview or what. But he's a member of fraternity. Which one's that? Something Alpha Epsilon. Sigma Alpha Epsilon, is it? And there you go. That's not Sigma Chi, is it? I don't think. And there you go. So he's in there somewhere. And that's out the halls of residence window. There's another one with a snow covering. I'm just wondering if he's a basketball player. That's not the one that I was thinking of, but I don't think it said basketball on the other one. I'd have to have another look. But yeah, clearly into sport, very athletic. Did concreting, so very physically able, physically in good condition. Drives Dodge trucks. This is when he got rid of one of his trucks. Obviously, you can see it's quite a while ago. But this was what I really wanted to show you. First time ever packing this and not having to pack around a ghillie suit. And I was like, what the hell is a ghillie suit? So I look it up and I'm surprised to find... I actually couldn't believe it. I was like, what the actual... I'm pretty sure I've seen one. Isn't there like a Jack Showalter picture of him wearing something like this? Wow. It looks like Eric Gower likes to wear them as well. So I'm assuming he's a hunter. This is some kind of hunting outfit, is it? It's bizarre. It's disturbing. It's incredibly disturbing. I mean, is that just what they're used for? I'm going to have a bit of another Google. I think it might just be for hunting. But why would he be, like, is that just something he does regularly, or did he do a job where he needed to wear? Oh my God, I just can't believe people wear those. I mean, imagine you going for a walk with your dog and then this man comes out of the bushes wearing something like that. That's just insane. Just want to review this Daily Mail article regarding it's referred to here as private taxi driver. So he spoke exclusively to the Daily Mail, speaking for the first time and exclusively to dailymail.com. The private taxi driver, referred to as a private taxi driver, probably the last person. Now, we think he is Eric Gower, okay? But listen to this, and then we're going to look at Eric Gower, and we're going to see if it seems like it would be Eric Gower. So he says, it's weighed on me. I've replayed that night 1 million times over, trying to think if there was some sign or some details that something was amiss, but there was nothing. Okay, I'm just going to go down because it's just giving details of stuff we already know. Going down to where... Here we go. So I picked them up about 1:40, 1:45, said the driver. They had their food. And this immediately makes me question how much this guy is telling us. Maybe he's not telling us it because because otherwise you can cause unnecessary speculation. They had their food and they were super excited about their mac and cheese, as girls are after they go to the club. Now, I can testify to the fact that you might be enjoying your food, but you're not going to be chatting about your food, not particularly, not at length, not for the whole journey. But this is characterised as normal. So just listen to this. Okay, so he's familiar with the surveillance footage about Adam, and Adam is cooperating with the police. According to the driver, sometimes the girls would talk about boys, but that night they were just excited about their food. How long can you talk about mac and cheese? I mean, it wasn't a long journey, to be fair. Probably only a 5-minute journey. 5 minutes, do you think? I think probably about that, but I still don't think I could talk about mac and cheese for 5 minutes. There was no apprehension, no weird feelings there, no upsetness. There was no nervousness about them. They weren't afraid of anybody. There was nobody following them or following us. There was absolutely nobody following us. I suspect there were other cars on the road. Would you notice would anybody notice if somebody was following them, if they weren't expecting to be followed? I'm not saying there was somebody following them, but I don't really think you could say there wasn't anybody following you. Why are you looking to see if somebody's following you? I wouldn't have thought that a driver, whether they're a taxi driver or any driver on the road, is particularly looking out for that. There was absolutely nothing about that ride that was different or abnormal. Well, there was. They were talking about mac and cheese for the whole journey because you said that's... So this is the article where supposedly the private driver was interviewed, and it just sounds like they're a Uber driver or taxi driver. So I thought I'd add this onto the end. It is in another of my videos, but there's probably a lot of people who've missed it. So it's interesting because it really it doesn't sound like. So I'm now wondering, because he's a member of a fraternity and this course, if it was Eric Gower, what's the link? Could he have also been picking up? Could the link be Ethan? And could he have been picking up Ethan and Xana as well, not just the girls? So he's actually linked to Ethan, and they've made it sound like they came in different vehicles. Although Olivia was it's interesting how she was very adamant that they came home at 1:56, not 1:45. And in a way, that could be her pointing out they didn't come home together. So I don't know them. I mean, unless they've just got to know him because Ethan was at the house. Either he was at the house a lot or he was living at the house. So maybe I know so if sororities have drivers, then fraternities also have drivers, presumably. And who are these people? Are they I don't know how it works. I'll see if I can find out, and if anybody else finds out or already knows, that'd be great. I know WSU Kim sometimes watches. If you're out there, can you would you happen to know that? So yeah, I'm wondering if he might, even though they are not part of a sorority anymore, it might the driver might then be either linked with sorority or with fraternity. And I'm wondering if it's fraternity because of the fact this guy was a frat, and the course is in the same department as Ethan's course. And I'm also wondering about what I'm reading about the bridge course, which is what his area was. I'm wondering if Ethan might have had some form of learning difficulty. I don't mean anything very profound, but I mean like I do, basically ADHD, which is like a learning difficulty. It is very difficult to learn and focus with ADHD. I know he wasn't very keen. I've heard his mum say he tolerated the academic side. He's a sporty person. I wonder if maybe he had an additional need like that, or dyslexia or something. And because these bridge programs are aimed at sort of lower social economic groups. Obviously, he doesn't fall into that category. And different ethnicities, I think also tribal, indigenous groups, and first generation students. He doesn't fall into those, but it's also can be for students with needs such as ADHD, dyslexia, perhaps autism. So just his, I'm just wondering, perhaps something like that. And he might be a TA on one of those courses. He might have been helping on one of those courses, or I might be way off base. I'm just talking through any possibilities of why this individual would have been providing a ride home for any of the deceased students, subsequently deceased students. How does he know them? I almost find it odd that I suppose they've kept the name of the, it seems to be something that's happening more and more lately. It happened in the Nicola Bulley case that they seem to be keeping names out of the media, but it's strange because then you've got other names that are in the media. And I just think if you're a witness, I don't know why it makes it feel like that they're not real witnesses if we don't have their names. And there have been so many names that have been mentioned, it would seem somewhat odd for them not to mention if this person's a regular driver. Well, why can't their name be mentioned? It kind of makes things seem more suspicious that there's some, it could be like, he was having an affair with one of them or something. He's married, he was having an affair and we're keeping it quiet. It's like, why is it being kept quiet? Is there a reason, or did the person just ask for their name to be kept out? I mean, Dylan's name's been, I guess it would be hard for her name not to have been put in, but then there's other names that have come up that have just appeared in the news, and I think it's each of those I can see a reason why they've used names, because they've used names to say that it was like this, that was always a party house, and then I look the person up and they don't even live in the area, so I'm like, they're from the University of Idaho, but they don't live in that area. So but they've said that they're a neighbour. The news outlet in the article has said they're a neighbour, and there are some genuine people. Maybe they've just been more forthcoming. I don't know. But yeah, so this article's just basically interesting in the fact that when you read it, it does not seem that this person is anybody other than an Uber or taxi driver from what's said in the article.